All right, welcome. This is Peter Voogd. We're live, and I'm the founder of the prestigious Game Changers Academy, and I want to thank you guys for tuning into our monthly Millionaire video series where we interview the world's most elite and successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, entertainers, and game changers, people that I have massive respect for, who are not just making a difference in their industry, but in the world as well. And I'm excited for this one. We've already chopped it up beforehand. We've had some fun. I've known Jaime for what, Jaime, 5 years? Maybe 6 years.
Long time. I don't know.
A long time. And I've seen her always continue to grow and push the envelope and continue to have an amazing lifestyle and impact a lot of people. She's the author of Eventual Millionaire and a top business coach. Over the last 10 years, she's taught 6- and 7-figure ambitious CEOs, entrepreneurs, and small business owners how to optimize every area of their business, like pumping profit in their bottom line, implementing sales funnels to target the perfect customer, and marketing strategies that lead to massive conversions, which every single person on this call needs to know these things to optimize their business. And this is all while making sure she builds a lifestyle she's proud of. Because I've seen her travel, she loves what she does, but she's not tied to her desk all day. She's not working 80 hours a week. At least when I talked to her last, she wasn't. Hopefully you're not working 80 hours a week now, I'm just kidding. But she loves her lifestyle too. And she genuinely cares about helping people and watching her clients and her fans' businesses grow as well. She's the producer and host of one of the most popular shows on the planet for entrepreneurs and has conducted close to 500 interviews with millionaires and billionaires. It's called Eventual Millionaire. She's been featured in every publication and is doing amazing things. So I'm excited, Jaime, for this call. Our team is excited. The Academy is excited. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you. My ego is hugely inflated now that you've read through all that. I appreciate it.
I like intros. So here's a quick story that I was reading about that I know a lot of people know about you going in debt. I just want to touch on this, then we'll dive in. You were 70 grand in debt. You quit your job. You were making most of the income. Where did you get the idea, or what was it? What was the turning point for you that you wanted to become an entrepreneur? You were making money, but you were in debt and you're like, forget this. I got to be an entrepreneur. Do you remember that defining moment back in the day so people can kind of get a context of where you are now?
Oh, yeah. So I was always told, you go to school, you get a job. My dad told me no. My dad told me to work for myself, but he never did. Like, he tried and it failed. So I was scared as all crap to try and actually quit my job. I had a 6-figure job at 22. Thought I was super awesome. Hated every minute of it. And finding yourself in that much debt, that's a lot. My husband at the time was a professional juggler, and I was the real job kind of lady, right? And he kept telling me to quit.
You were making most of the income.
I made $100 and some thousand at 22. We had a house. You know what I mean? It was like, great. I'm not going to just quit. I got your health insurance. Thanks. Right. Wow. And I have to be completely honest. The catalyst was not me going, I'm going to change. It was, I want to have a baby and I'm not willing to travel. Like, I used to travel for work all the time, every single week. I couldn't do that job with a kid. And so it was like, if I want to have a baby, I have to change everything. And that was the actual catalyst. Something outside of myself, instead of everybody else telling me to quit because I hated it, made a huge difference.
Interesting. So it wasn't just like you wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was kind of like a necessity and your back was against the wall where you had to, if you wanted to take care of the kid and stuff like that.
Well, I also don't like being told what to do. And so I have an entrepreneurial personality, let's say that. And so, but money was a big motivator beforehand. And because I didn't have the belief that I can make a lot of, you got to do what you got to do. And we saved up almost 6 months of expenses, paid off all the debt. And that made me feel better about doing this. Now, I quit without having an actual business, so don't do that, everybody that's listening. But other than that, it went really well.
So when your business idea, which was brilliant, by the way, I know you kind of had a lot of things that happen in alignment to where you're like, this makes sense for me to start this business. But a lot of people, and I'm sure you coach a lot of people, they have that same feeling. They want to quit corporate. They want to become an entrepreneur, but they either don't know how to find the idea or they have too much fear holding them back. So can you speak on that before we start, about how you found your idea to create Eventual Millionaire, how to be a coach? Or did you see a need first? Did people keep coming to you? So you kind of like, your idea came to you because of what people said, or how'd that go?
That is a great long-winded question. I'll try and keep it really short. So because when I quit and went on my own, I people used to come to me for advice, especially on getting out of debt and stuff like that. But I like we were talking about before, I looked like I was like 12 years old. And so I was like, oh, I should be a coach. And this was 10 plus years ago. And I thought coaching was stupid. No offense to anyone who wants a coach. I thought it was really dumb. And so, but the skill set of being a coach was really important, right? Active listening, all that stuff. I was like, well, if I have a kid, I need to learn this stuff anyway. So I started going down that path. I ended up finding a mentor locally. He was a business coach, sold $1 million business and took me under his wing for 2 years. So I just worked with him while I was figuring out what the heck I was going to do. Eventual Millionaire was a blog that I started probably 10, 15 years ago, maybe, for the name. That was just talking about getting out of debt. Yep. It was crazy. It was at the very beginning. I didn't even WordPress wasn't a thing. I had to create. I'm a geek. I have a degree in computers. So I made my own blogging site because I'm that much of a geek. But the reason why it actually became big or bigger was because I was testing blogging for 6 months. Hated it. Because I hate writing. I am much better at speaking than I am at writing, even though I do have a book. But when we look at like 6 months of that, I was about to quit, like literally told my coach, I'm going to quit. This is taking up a lot of time and not really seeing a lot of results. I think I had 500 subscribers. CNN called me from my guest post that I had. I was on CNN. I was on Yahoo's homepage. It was insane. That whole entire week was nuts. My website went down a bazillion times. 3 months later, I was on Yahoo's homepage again, Kiplinger's personal finance magazine, and it started blowing up. And I was like, maybe I'm onto something. So what I ended up doing, though, because I hated writing so much, I started a podcast interviewing millionaires. Not that I knew any, because I knew zero, but that way I could actually speak and have really amazing advice from amazing humans, almost 500 episodes now. It's insane to see how much I've learned and how many amazing humans I've gotten from it, just from going, I hate writing, I need to switch to something else. And that's sort of how Eventual Millionaire was born.
You almost don't even need to do a lot of personal growth because you've interviewed 500 millionaires. You're talking to personal growth every week. You know what I mean?
Seriously, I am. Implementation of that personal growth is different though, isn't it?
That's funny.
Like, so I feel smart.
When you got discovered by CNN and when you were on the homepage, was that your blog that you wrote about going from 70 grand in debt to paying for that? Because that's very catchy. That's what attracted me to you a long time ago. Is I read that and I was like, damn, this girl's a beast.
Thanks.
So the importance of having some piece of content that is, I don't want to say catchy, but real and relevant is important, because if you didn't have that out, you wouldn't have got discovered.
I don't think so. No. So having that really good story, I've also been on Yahoo's homepage now 6 or 7 times, and Business Insider and a bunch of those things. Now it's the Millionaire bent, right? So what is a trend that people really, really want to know about with a personal story? It works really well.
That's huge, because a lot of people don't have that out there. They have an amazing skill, but if they're a speaker, they don't have a speaking reel. If they're a great writer, they don't have a great piece. So you just took what was most authentic to you that you knew was catchy, but also something that you really went through. So that's huge. I didn't know that that's how that worked out. So that's cool. Then you started interviewing millionaires. And then after what have you done now? 500?
Just about 500, really close.
I'm excited to talk about your new business that is extremely needed, that we talked about, that me and you both agreed is probably one of the most important things an entrepreneur can go through. But before we dive into that, because that's going to be most of the call, I want to talk about, if you can think back from all your millionaire interviews, there's a lot of entrepreneurs on this call, Jaime, that want to become millionaires, and they're at 6 figures. And something is holding them back from that 7-figure mark. And I'm sure you've helped a lot of clients get through that. Yep. And double the revenue and all the other things. But a couple questions. One is, what are the most common themes that you've seen, and I'm sure you've got this, from all the millionaires that you're like, wow, that keeps coming up over and over again, and I don't see a lot of 6-figure entrepreneurs doing that. Can you think of those things that you've got? Because you've interviewed some absolute legends.
Totally. So one that came up over and over and over and over again. That's the funny thing. And once you start doing them, you're like, wow, they say the same things. And some of them are cliches. Don't get me wrong. They're cliches that are actually true. So listening to them and actually implementing them, very different than just hearing them over and over again. This one I'm not sure is totally a cliche, because it hit me on the head a few times. And well, I'll give you both of them. So one of them is the commitment to the end goal, not writing the goal, not whatever, the no matter what commitment that they're going to get to the end, not the how. I think we as entrepreneurs get way too caught up in the how it's going to happen, but the commitment to no matter what. In addition to that, though, the 2 pieces, the second piece is speed of implementation. So if it takes you 10 times longer to actually do something, it's going to take you 10 times longer to make more money, right? Now, when you have a team, that's an amazing team. That's how you multiply that too, which helps a lot for 7-figure entrepreneurs for sure, because you could have an amazing team, so that way they can really help you with the speed of implementation. But when you're looking at that commitment to the goal and how fast you test, because a lot of this stuff is testing or leveling up what's already working for you, right? Those are the things, and the consistency in that actually makes a difference. And I know that sounds like, okay, I've heard that before, blah, blah, blah. But to give you an example, like one of the guys that I know who's amazing, 7-figure business, went to a conference, implemented it that night. So I'm going to go implement this thing right now and test it and come back the next day and see if it worked. Versus, oh, I had a conference, I'm really tired, everything's great. And then we forget about what we learned and we don't implement it for weeks, maybe if at all. Does that make sense?
Huge. And I mean, and a lot of them don't really ask. They're not like, well, should I test this? Is this the perfect thing? They just try it. And if they fail, they do the next thing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too, is they're quick at that.
Yes. Yes. It's just data. That doesn't mean anything. It's just data. And I think that's an amazing thing too, especially at the beginning stages. You're like, this roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and picking yourself back up. You do get better at that, but the faster you pick yourself up, the more good days you have, usually the more outcome you have too.
100%. So commitment to the end goal. And a lot of people, so when you say commitment to the end goal, because I really want to get this, because a lot of our calls are try to focus on how to get past that 7-figure mark. So commitment to the end goal is, if things get tough, doesn't matter. If things don't go the same way, they adapt and adjust, doesn't matter. You're saying they're committing to that end goal that they set, regardless of the circumstances, how they feel, what happened, things like that, correct? Is that kind of what you got from them?
That too. And so imagine you've got a business and you're like doing pretty well, but you keep trying to hit your head against the wall over and over, and you're like, it's not working. That 7-figure goal you're going to have, whether it's this business or a different business, right? Whether this business totally messes up and you have to pick yourself back up, that doesn't totally matter. It's the commitment to the end goal, no matter how you think it's supposed to look. Does that make sense?
100%. And it doesn't really ever look, all the businesses I've started that have succeeded, they never look like how I wanted them to look. There's always different variations and things like that as well. Yeah. So
we're like, we'll fit it in a box. No, I really want it to look this way. It's like, no, just go step over here and level this up and you'll do it much faster. And people are like, what? Right?
That's the importance of a mentor too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Exactly. You can't, when you're in it, you're like, right? Everybody needs that.
Did most of the millionaires have like mentors that they consult with, or advisory boards that they talk to when they had an issue? Because I've seen a lot of the people I talk to have the mentors, have the people that are at a higher level that challenge their thinking and keep their standards high. Did you kind of find that evident?
Definitely. And one of the issues that I see, though, just for people that do have, most of your people have mentors that are listening. I'm assuming they have you. They have, so it's not just having a mentor, but either just having one mentor to listen to, right? And not having one of the problems that I had interviewing millionaires, first world problems for sure, don't get me wrong, but everyone wanted to help me, especially at the beginning. Oh, let me help you. And I'd be like, oh, great. So a professional speaker would be like, oh, you should do this, write a book, charge this much money, do blah, blah, do all this stuff. I was like, that's a great idea. I'd go down this path. I'd talk to another guy who had a different skill set. He'd go do this. I'd be like, oh, crap. Okay. Like, who's smarter? So I created a board of mentors where they all have to talk together and then they agree on one way for me to go. So that way I don't have, because otherwise you're getting too many differing opinions, and that makes it even more chaotic, because you're like, well, hey, Porterfield said this, but Peter said this, and I don't know who to choose. Pick one and just commit to that path, because it's better to commit to the path that they know, that one path, than it is to go like this, because it will take way too long on the implementation side.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew some of these things coming up in entrepreneurship as well, because I didn't, and I failed a lot because I did take different advices. That's why it's so important to take few opinions from people that you respect, and that's even next level. You're having an advisory board that talks to each other, so you can get crazy advice from them that you know is the right advice, and you don't have to pick which one to take because you know it's best. They have their best.
Well, I love hearing them fight about what I should do there too. It's fun. Like, wait, I know this is what goes on internally when I hear two pieces of advice from people I trust, right? And when they talk it out, it's like, and then they all agree, which is a wonderful thing.
Now it makes more sense of why you created this amazing business that we're going to talk about. I don't give you credit. I give your mentors credit. I'm just kidding.
Always do it.
So I want to talk about this too. You say in your bio, and obviously a lot of people know you from helping people's businesses grow.
Yep.
So you say you specialize in created automated systems and doubling your clients' revenue. If you were looking, and I really want to get deep and kind of dive into some businesses, but if you were looking at some of our members' businesses, I know they depend on what industry, but what are some things that you look for, maybe low-hanging fruit that you look for to help them start realizing the potential of their business or start making more money? What are some things you look for?
It's so funny. I call it low-hanging fruit. Like that's sort of, I was about to say low-hanging fruit. I wrote it down right here. You just said it. So I love that. So my whole thing, I work with 6- and 7-figure business owners. And one of the biggest things that I say when we're setting goals is it's easy to double. It sucks to triple. Like you can, but everything gets janky typically, right? Depending on your size right now, but typically. But it's usually not some wham bam new tactic thing that's super crazy awesome that you're adding. It's very simple business systems that need to be leveled up, right? To either get you out of it so you can actually be the captain of the ship, or because it's already working, and leveling it up is really important. So whenever I do an initial call with a client, and I've had clients in literally every industry you could ever imagine, like dent removal and timber and plumbing companies, along with online businesses and e-com and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, but I cut my teeth in a lot of offline, boring as all crap businesses, right? And I know the online side. So a lot of the online entrepreneurs are like, ooh, I need to know the latest and greatest and the coolest tactics. And they get wrapped up in that. Instead of what I like to do with the low-hanging fruit side is look at the numbers, right? How much money are you making? Where's it coming from? A lot of people don't actually look at a lot of the metrics. Unfortunately, even if they have them, we don't really look at them all that much, and try and figure out what is going as best as humanly possible and how you can level that one piece up. Usually, and it's insane to see the aha moments. This is why I love coaching. The aha moments people have, because you're like, why are you doing it like this? Why don't you do it like this? And they're like, right? Genius. Again, you can't see it in your own business very easy, but when somebody comes in and goes, oh, if I were you, we could make way easier money faster by just doing this one thing. And it's usually not, and it's not a get rich quick or anything like that. It's usually not something super sexy. It's either doubling what you're already doing, right? So if you actually have a service business or something like that, you only have so many prospects, you're like, double how you're getting your prospects. Okay, great. Oh, I can just level it up. We can hire another person. We can do whatever those things are to solve that piece. And then, especially for the doubling side, working on the system so you can handle it, because you don't want, I know entrepreneurs care a lot about growth. Don't get me wrong. It's way easier to sell growth than it is to sell systems in any way, shape, or form, right? But what has a tendency to happen is we sell a ton, we're like, yay, and then we don't have anything, and we die on the inside as entrepreneurs because we're like crawled up in a little corner because you can't handle it all. Right? On the opposite side, the people that love systems will have their systems all set and not really care about growth and not make any money, right? So there's a delicate balance of how this goes, and that's sort of the piece. So we'll go, okay, what can we do short term that will make it easy to double, or whatever it is that your goal is, easy low-hanging fruit type things to look for, right? By looking at the numbers and seeing where the issues are. And secondary is going, okay, if we do get this much business, what does that look like if we do this? I remember one of my business coaches way back when, and I've done this to my clients so many times and they hate me for it. I love it, but I hated it when my coach did it to me. So we were running a program, this was years and years ago, and I was like, okay, well, I want 50 people in the program because it's group and intense and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, what if you doubled it? What would that look like? And I was like, okay, well, we would need another moderator. We would need to do this. We would need to do that. And she's like, oh, okay, so we're not saying we have to do it right now, but that's really not that difficult. Huh. Okay, so I can make double the amount of money. And that was the first $100,000 month that I had. I was like, I guess you're right. So doing that to my clients now, again, they're like, I don't want to do it. And then they look at the numbers and go, that's doable. I should at least shoot for that. Because sometimes we actually hold ourselves back as entrepreneurs, knowing what we are capable of because we don't want to get in a jam, or we're afraid of getting too busy and you want to cry and crawl in a corner, right? But being able to level up the pieces that are easier to level up, way better than starting a whole new thing. Make sense?
Numbers first is huge. This took me a couple years to figure out, but I rarely meet millionaires, Jamie, that don't know their numbers. And I mean, like, check their numbers daily and know exactly the numbers and where they're coming from, what marketing's bringing in what's the best ROI. And that should be one of your action steps right now, guys that are watching. And there's people watching on three different platforms. So everyone that's watching, that's your first thing. Your first action is like, I hope you conceptualize the importance of knowing your numbers, not just every month, but every week, and knowing what marketing is coming in and what's bringing the best ROI, and then doubling down on that. And a lot of things they're doing, I've realized, Jamie, they think they should do it because maybe someone said to do it, but it's not bringing in any ROI, or it's even losing them money. Yes. And it's leading those things.
Yep. And well, what's so insane is we were talking about OwnerBox before. So the new brand, so I would tell clients, you need to look at metrics. The problem is that there's a whole bunch of mindset craziness that comes along with that. Like if it's going down, we feel crappy. If it's going up, we feel good. Like there's a whole bunch of internal struggle that happens with metrics. One reason why people that are entrepreneurs are like, okay, I think we're doing okay, all's well, right? And so what we do is we take it off the plate of the owner. I like to say we have an owner and operator. When you're 200,000 to 2 million, having an owner, somebody that actually like visionary, that kind of thing, and an operator, the person that carries it out, operations department, detailed, pays attention, loves the numbers, that stuff, because a lot of visionaries aren't. The operator is the one that should own the KPI sheet, the key performance indicator, or the metrics, right? And then just deliver the way that we set it up, and we can give you guys a template if you want to, is the way we make it so it's in the calendar invite for your weekly meeting with your team, right? You write down, you pick not a ton of metrics, because sometimes you have so many metrics, you're looking at them, you don't know what actually matters, right? KPI is key performance indicator. You want to pick one that actually relates back to the goal that you have. So if it's gross revenue, how are we getting that, right? And trickle down into marketing or whatever systems that you need, right? And have the employee that's actually in charge of that put those metrics in. Like, by the way, this is what we're measuring you on. If it's to the site, well, then every time we check in, it's not going up. That's on you, because that's your responsibility, right? I know it makes logical sense when you hear it, but nobody actually does this. And so if we make it so that the owner only has to show up on the Monday meeting, show up on the Monday meeting, click on the link that's there to the KPI sheet or your profit and loss or whatever those most important ones that you're looking for. You do a temperature check. You go, oh, we're on the right page. We're all moving towards the goals that we have. Everything is there. Then it's easy. Instead of having the owner be like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this, like having one spot where everything is, and the operator makes sure that the owner is looking at it, because the owner might want to avoid it, even if they have the system set up. So I've just been through this quite a few times, hence the reason why passion on metrics.
Well, let's talk about your new business. I'm going to pull up. It's really funny you're saying this. She is spot on, because what took us from 6 to 7 was this, period. And I have, we have, when I meet with my team in person once a month, then we talk once a week, but we always have key metrics and key indicators that are important to me and my brand. And now what's cool is when you get to a certain level where things are systemized, we have KPIs that necessarily other people don't really care about, like YouTube subscribers, Instagram, social media stuff that doesn't bring in immediate ROI, but it doesn't matter because we know what metrics bring in revenue. So we can focus on other ones to build the brand too. So this is not just specific things, guys, like revenue. You have to have revenue, but once you build the brand, then you can kind of figure out what KPIs are most important to you, then the operator can handle those as well. So this is such a game changer. Now,
well, it makes a huge difference too. Sorry to interrupt, but it makes a huge difference too on what your goals are for that quarter. So if you have a specific goal to grow your YouTube subscribers so that this will happen later, that stuff matters now, and we have to preempt a lot of it. So if you don't know what's getting your YouTube subscribers, it's going to be really hard later to make it a lot bigger and better. Does that make sense too?
100%.
Great.
For sure. Yeah, that's
all right, go ahead. I won't interrupt anymore. Well,
I want to talk about
no promises.
We're both passionate. So OwnerBox. So building a team, like teaching people how to build the team the right way and making sure you have the right people on the bus. There's nothing that's made a bigger difference in every business I've ever started, even when I was back doing an eBay business and doing direct sales, than building the right team. I've done this the wrong way, and obviously so have you. And the structure of your business and how to restructure it is what you help companies do now. So where did you come up with the idea that you want to start a business to help people create teams? Maybe it was because you realized the importance. I don't know. But where did that come from? And let's kind of talk about the importance now of building the right team. Then we'll get into some tactics.
Well, what would happen is I'd have coaching clients. I'd tell them to go do things. that would be massively impactful in their business, and they'd come back the next week and be like, ah.
I didn't do them.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay, well, let's explore that. Okay. Time is very important to every entrepreneur, but we can't clone ourselves. I wish I could work on that first, but that doesn't happen. Plus, we're not very good at some of this stuff anyway, right? And so when you're, second, you okay?
You're good.
Okay.
Is it pausing?
Yeah, you have a very funny face on right now, if that makes a difference. Hopefully I do too. So when I would give them action items, because after every coaching session I give action items, so it's really easy to pay attention to accountability, right? And so what I found is I went, why can't I just tell the team? I actually ended up working with a lot of the employee team side, because I would help them implement the systems that infuse the business coaching stuff within it. So let's say for referrals, I'd be like, okay, you need to get your team to go do more referrals, well, do this tactic, do this, right? And they'd be like, okay, so what system do we use that for? And how do we, right? So it gets too much in their head. So I was like, okay, just give me your team and I'll tell them what to do. I'm like, okay, great. So if you can make it systemized, but I already have done this so many times before. This is why franchises are amazing, right? Franchises typically suck because you're paying so much money, but the systems are worth their weight in gold, and that's why people will pay for them, right? Knowing that the marketing works, knowing that these systems work. So you aren't the only owner doing all of the things at once. So when you're expanding, you have to figure out, well, what do you do really well? And what does the other people on your team do very well? Or if they suck, you have to let them go, which is also really tough. Like if you're an owner and you've never been taught any of this stuff, firing sucks really bad. You know, you're usually trying to go on the cheap, especially at first. I was talking to you, I have stories about hiring VAs at the beginning, right? I was like, oh, I just need a little bit of help, like research. And I hired a VA really cheap in the Philippines who ended up outsourcing her work to another VA in the Philippines. I know. I was like, I don't know if I'm really proud. Like, that's really good. But no, all the work sucked. So I didn't, but I was trying to do it on the cheap, right? And so my mentor was like, you're not a real business until you have a real employee. And I was like, okay, well, it's not just about having an employee to look good. It's about having somebody that actually has your back. So my operator lives 10 minutes away from me. She's amazing, so detail oriented. I'm able to go on vacation because she handles the entire team and we don't have to worry about it, right? Whereas I know that I'm not a great manager. I tried. I read books. I did whatever I could. She is a million times better than I am. Thank goodness. And having that right hand that can really help you level up so you can focus on the other thing, because I also have ADD. So I'm a little woo, right? Keeping me on task and focused really makes a difference. And if I had something like OwnerBox to train my team at the time, I wouldn't have had to go through the hellish stuff, especially figuring out software, because I'm a geek. I go to the ends of the earth to figure out what software works with what, and if we can use Zapier and integrate. I'm kind of crazy on that. But most owners don't have the time to figure out any of that stuff, let alone the beginning stages and foundation. Rant over. Okay.
I love it. And that's such a big part of building a 7-figure business and just a successful business in general, where you're not tied to your business and you're working 100 hours a week, where you actually have some flexibility to build a real lifestyle too. Because we're all about, yes, getting real results, but doing it on your terms where you have a lifestyle. And you can't really do that unless you have the right team, not a team, the right team. So I have a question from one of our Academy members, Tim. Once you get past delegating the things you don't like doing while systemizing your business, how do you identify what's next to get off your plate while the company is kind of still in infancy?
Okay, so this is where we were going through, and if you don't mind, I'm going to walk through a bit of a process. Okay?
Perfect, let's do it.
Because the first thing is, well, and I wish I could just chat with Tim because it'd be a lot easier, but the first thing is to make sure that the people on your team, especially in infancy, are the right people on the team. So let's say we have that. Let's say we've got some A players. So far, so good. We've delegated some of the little things. Maybe we have an exec admin. Maybe we have some of the little things done. Awesome. Then and my clients hate this. I just love making people do stuff that they absolutely hate right now. We won't do it on our own unless we're told what to do. Me neither, okay? I do time tracking. So I make all my clients do time tracking, right? Once we do, and 3 to 5 days solid of like every minute of time tracking, right? because you're going to notice the things that really you love doing and the things that you don't love doing. So when we actually create the org chart, we call it a team structure because org chart's too corporate for me. But the team structure that we create is based on the things that you're doing. So you're going to put your hat, imagine you have an org chart team structure. You're going to put your hat in all those roles that you're doing within the list of the time tracking that you did. So for example, if you're doing marketing, right? You're like the main person, CMO for marketing, then, but you hate that piece or you're really good at that piece or whatever it is, that's when we start to put your name in the team structure. So you know what the next piece is. Ideally stuff that you don't like, of course, but if you feel like you've delegated all the stuff that you don't like at all, what's the next level thing that you know if you had 100% time to go all in on, you would do really, really well. That's the bucket that you want to be on for your team structure versus going, I still have to wear 5 hats because I like them all. You can, but you could have a person in each one of those roles that can do it way better than you can and focus on it. And that's how you can grow. That make sense?
He's listening with ears wide open, he said. Appreciate it. And there's a lot of comments. I don't want to read them all because we don't have a ton of time. So let me ask you this, Jamie, common mistakes. If you had to pinpoint the top 1 or 2 mistakes you see people make when hiring, where you can kind of tell them to avoid that so they have a fresh look at how to hire, what would those be, like biggest mistakes you've seen?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm going to give you a link. Well, actually, I'll give you a link at the end. We have a hiring guide. So it's the Millionaire's hiring guide because everybody messes this up, okay? And it's massive, but we have a little checklist that goes through. So one of the things that I see way too much, especially for people, we're like, I want the person that is most amazing at everything. Okay, so not saying lower your expectations at all. I'm saying you have to be constantly looking for somebody like that. It's not something where you can be like, oh, I put out an Indeed job post and everything's fine. So that's number 1. So always having that looking for somebody potentially to hire because the people that you want to have on your team probably have a job and they probably love their job. Like I don't want people that hate their job and quit. Right? Because they might quit from me too, right? Depending on how it is. And so that's number 1. Number 2, though, is once we start getting the hiring process down, I have them run through a project or a test, right? So we can either do a trial, a month trial, something like that, if they don't want to quit the job that they have now and you just want to test them out as a contractor, something like that. But figure out a way to test because as good as we are at our, whatever we do in our business, we're not always the best at gauging the way people interact in an interview. As I found. Me too. I'm like, they seem amazing. And then you hire them and you're like, that is not how they seemed at all, right? And I always thought I was a good judge of character, but having them do an actual project or test that way, and ideally have quite a few people do the same test, you can compare apples to apples. You can really know what that looks like. Give them the same amount of info. I do it very scientific, right? I give them the exact same email. I say, ask whatever questions you want. You can text me. I find out how many times they ask me stuff, that kind of stuff. So that's the second piece. The third piece, though, and this saved my butt a few times. So, and I make my clients do this also, and I almost didn't do this myself, and I am so thankful that I did. Okay, so this is very important. Whenever you're hiring, a lot of the times you'll be like, this person's amazing. I want to hire them right now because they might get another job somewhere, but you don't have any other candidates that are even close to what that is, right? Now, don't get me wrong. If it was referral or something like that, maybe you can weight it differently. But I personally like to have at least 2 candidates that I adore, that I love, before I hire one of them. Because what has a tendency to happen is if all of them are down here and you have one that's here, you're like, they're way better than this. So they must be good, right? But when you have somebody that's comparable, it's like, So just a quick story. Before I hired this right hand, she's been working with me for over a year and a half now-ish. I almost didn't do this. I got a referral from someone. They were great. They helped me with YouTube Live. They were here. We did a project test. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to hire them. And then I was like, shoot, I tell everyone else to have 2 candidates. I can't not do this, right? I have to do what I say. I ended up just posting a job on Indeed because I was like, well, I got to get at least another candidate. That's the fastest way to do it. My right hand now had just posted on Indeed right after. She hasn't even been looking for a job beforehand. She just moved to Austin. And so end up getting an interview right away, hands down, even better. And I think my business would be a completely different spot right now if I hired the other person. All right.
Wow.
Now,
how interesting.
Now you have it.
It all stemmed because you did what you said you were going to do, which magical things always happen when you follow through on your word and when you lead by example. I love that. So if people have a team now, do you have any guidelines or any structures on how to kind of figure out if the team is right now? Like if you have the right team now, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll give you a link to the team toolbox. So we have one landing page. So everything I'm saying will all be on one landing page for everyone, the hiring guide and the team toolbox, as long as I remember to write it down. So my team will put it on there. So the first thing, and there's a great book called Who by Jeff Smart. I don't know if you've read it before, but he's awesome. It's all about hiring. It's an old school book. I learned old school, right? That being said, he has this test that's in it, and I can run through it quickly right now. But the videos that I have in the team toolbox will go through in more detail with templates and stuff. So it's literally just making the list of your team, right? And I say contractors too, because sometimes we have really crappy contractors and we're like, well, they're good enough. I don't have to do it. Finding a new one sucks, right? Because we usually go, nah, things are okay. Because I don't want to have to do it, so I might as well pay someone that's okay to do it. Typically, when we run through this process, you write all their names down, and then next to their name, we write an A, B, C, or F. And get really honest with it, right? And if we had time, I would do this right now, but I know we don't, so listen to the video. So you go through A, B, C, or F, and then I'll give you my little spiel that I say afterwards. And this is sort of giving it away for you right now, but I think it's really important for everybody to hear this, whether or not they download the team test. Most people won't have a F, like, ever, because if they do have an F, they already know that they needed to fire them, right? So most people won't actually write F down unless they're like, I knew a long time ago. All the ones that are C's, and a lot of people have C's, right? When you think about the school grading, A, B, C, or F, C's average, right? When you're a really, really, really small business, every employee or contractor counts a lot. And no offense, but a lot of owners aren't great managers either. So that C might not be just them. It might be you and them together, right? That being said, when they're a C, a lot of times you can't train them into an A. It's not about that, okay? So I go through it and I go, fire them. That's what the book says also. Fire the C's. It sucks, don't get me wrong. And if everybody on your team is C's, don't fire everybody. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that if you already know that they're a C and you can't actually
fire them.
Exactly. Strategically. And a lot of people avoid this anyway. So they know. I've had a client that knew for 5 years that they needed to fire someone. 5 years, right? And I hopped on the phone right before they did it. Okay, you can do this, right? Like, you got this, because it sucks. Like, somebody's family is being impacted. It sucks to go through that, but it makes all the difference in the world for your business. So then for all the B's, you go through all the B's and you ask the question, can you train them into an A? If you can train them into an A, then you really need to work on that, right? And a lot of the times that's a big issue. People are like, oh, my team sucks. And it's like, because you don't give them any training and you're a bad manager, don't know what to tell you, right? So we have to definitely look at ourselves. But if it's not about the training piece, if you're like, no, I don't think they're ever going to be an A, think about letting them go also. Because if you can't train them and you're not a great manager anyway, right? It's harder for you to be able to spend the time that you need. What we want, ideally, is either an operator that is really great at managing people, so she's better with bees, or he is better with bees than you are, or we need to make sure that the level of people that you have are able to make decisions without you, where you can actually trust them. So, because one of the biggest issues that entrepreneurs have is letting go. It's ridiculous to know when you say something to a client or something like that, and you're like, you're stuck in your own, I can't let it go because it might mess up, or whatever those things are. And a lot of the times it's because you don't trust the system or you don't trust the team. So we got to work on those core pieces first, and then you can go on vacation without actually having to bring your cell phone, which to most entrepreneurs is crazy talk, right? That's my whole thing. So the rest of the piece will go from there, and then it will talk about the team structure and tells you and has templates on how to restructure everything too. So I won't leave.
A lot of people are agreeing with you, and they're super excited to kind of make the changes. But once again, I want to vouch for this and let you guys know that it's sometimes a little messy and tougher at the beginning to find the right people to really train them and to be amazing entrepreneurs. And even if they're A players, to train them on your systems, it's challenging, but the end result of that is such an amazing relieving feeling that there's nothing like it. So you guys have to realize, put in the time. It's going to make your head hurt a little bit. Sometimes it's expanding your capacity. But every time we've done that, Jaime, we've made the right hire. We've trained them. We've spent a lot of time on them. It makes my life easier, makes the business better, and they love it because they're doing their strengths and I'm doing my strengths. So this is such a big topic to cover as well. I have a question.
I was gonna say that's why we created Ownerbox, because that's the problem. The training takes so long. And so if you don't have an operator or your right hand that really gets that and the training piece, then it is you trying to train and you're the crazy running around business owner with too much on your plate that can't let go anyway. And it's a mishmash mess. I shouldn't say they don't always, but typically they will not prioritize it because they're so worried about growth or cash flow or whatever it is that systems take a back seat. That's why we created Ownerbox. It's like, okay, just let us train your team. We'll do it better. Thanks.
100%. Two simple questions, and then I'll leave you because I know you have to go jump on another call. Tim says, how long do you invest to go from B to A? So like making a B to A, what's the length?
So it depends on the person, but a lot of the times we don't even have employee reviews or evaluations. So they could be gosh darn A and they have no idea what you want them to work on. So having an employee evaluation where you're like, okay, you want to get better at this. We're measuring you on this, right? I actually have a firing guide also that I can show to you guys, of course, right? You're going to have all the pieces because it sucks as a business owner to go, oh, when is it enough? Or when I'm not saying what they're doing, when is it enough? And they have like the 3-strike rule and stuff like that. So I would give at least 3 months, at least, to really have a quarterly review, a beginning quarterly review and an end quarterly review, and go, did you do anything, right? Now, if you're like, it doesn't seem to be moving the needle, but you feel like it's on you too because you were too busy or you were sending them in the wrong directions, then give them more time for sure. But I've done this before. And what I did at the end, and this is in the firing guide, but I was like, we're giving you a lot of training. I really, really want this to work out because the amount of training you're putting in, you really want it to work out, right? And we record everything as we're teaching the training again though, so that way you don't have to do it again, right? But I give a 30-day very specific metric. So this one was, you have to do this specific action every single day, and you have to email me the result every day. 30 days, we got maybe 10 out of 20 days done. And I was like, you knew that's what I asked for. I don't know what to tell you. Like
you got to think about it logically. If they're not going to do it when they're on a trial period, they're not going to do it later.
Definitely.
That's
and it's like, we're measuring. Yeah, we're measuring on this. I'm a little confused. So if you're seeing them work hard and make progress, that's huge. If it's less than that, like if they're just not getting a concept, you might need to move them in a different seat in your team structure. I'm not saying they're bad for what they are. They might just be bad at that specific thing. But if you're going, do this, and then they don't, or something happens, that's when you need to cut the cord sooner rather than later.
For you, do you deal with, or does your operations manager, like John asks, how do you get through people who are hardwired with limiting beliefs and like push them to be more conscious thinkers? Because once they do, they get better results. But do you work on people's limiting beliefs and stuff? Or is it just like you hire the people that you think already have the right belief system?
So that's a really good question. I can go back a lot. I'm a coach, so I love working on that stuff to a fault. I'm like, I can make them awesome, right? Like I want to help everyone, and helping everyone is a wonderful thing, except when it's a little also, right? So I have, and you can't actually see it, but I have my company values up here on the wall. And so to me, when you're hiring, company values are important number one. And one of the things we talk about is we care about outcomes, we value potency, we are transparent, we evolve fast and look towards the future, and we value flow, ease, and positivity, right? And so when you're looking at what they actually value, if they value very, very similar things, it's worth the time and effort to put into them if they have limiting beliefs. Because imagine when you break through, because you can get somebody at a lower pay scale and you can help them, don't get me wrong. If you're not good at helping other people get past limiting beliefs though, read up on it, right? And push them. We can definitely push them. But pushing someone outside their comfort zone when they just don't want to go, putting metrics in place. I mean, that's one of the things, the reason why I had to fire that person. So scared of sales, so scared of sales. So I'm like, okay, I was too. I know what it was like. I worked for Kirby Vacuum Cleaner. I hated it. All this, right? I hated it. And I saw a lot in her. But as a business owner, unfortunately, you can't have somebody that's not willing to do what they say. Right? If they're showing you that they're working and they're trying and they're reading books on limiting beliefs and really trying to push forward, that's amazing and awesome. Like, give them resources. Don't negate that. But you also can't be like, come on, team, let's go. You're going to be dragged down, and that sucks too. So it's a human. Dealing with metrics way easier. Dealing with humans, whew, there's a lot that goes in there for sure.
I hope you got that, because that was a really good answer. So I'm going to let you go, Jaime. It was amazing to connect with you. If you could give our game changers one action plan, then we're going to talk about, they want that link, by the way. But if you were going to give them one action plan, you're speaking to people that really want to make an impact. They really want to get the 7 figures the right way. They have such big hearts. They want to help a lot of people, but maybe they have an issue with what you talked about, building a team or limiting belief. What's the one thing you would tell them to do right after this call? Anything they could write down, any action item that they can do to really help them get to the next level?
Yep. And the reason, this comes from data. So I asked that question, what's one action listeners can take this week on my podcast for over 500?
Oh, that's right.
You know, the one that comes up over, so this is not just me, this is the one that comes up over and over and over again. Oh, I got chills on it. So, ready? Take that one thing that you know you need to do or you're avoiding or that's scary or uncomfortable, right? Take a second to think about it right now, especially if you're like in the car or something like that. Write it down. No matter how big or challenging or scary, hiring somebody, firing somebody, right? Whatever those things are, write it down and commit to that first step. If it's firing someone, it might be creating that plan. So that way you can see if they can actually be trained. Whatever that piece is, I want you to take that one step this week. Because once you start it, you create momentum. That's what your whole thing is about, right? Once you get, oh, I can do that. And you grow your comfort zone bigger and bigger and bigger. And to me, the millionaires that I talk to, they just do so much that they're not scared of so much anymore, right? They're like, oh, I spoke on stage, been there, done that. Easy, right? It wasn't at first, sucked at first. So all this stuff that is out of your comfort zone that you won't typically push yourself on because you don't have to as a business owner, let me slap you right now and go do that. Okay.
You guys heard it first. Jaime, I appreciate your time. And once again, thanks for being we've known each other for 5 years. Thanks for leading the way and creating such amazing content and helping entrepreneurs and doing what you do. Where's the link they can get all that stuff? And also give your social handle so they can follow you as well.
Perfect. So it's eventualmillionaire.com/GCA for Game Changers Academy. Nice and easy. We'll put the hiring guide, the team toolbox, the firing guide, all that fun stuff. They're like, yay, I'm going to love that link.
Did your cut or did your assistant?
Yes, definitely.
Not you.
She goes through it. Oh, yeah. It's already prepped, by the way. So if anyone goes there right now, it just says resource to be determined. So when I say things, she'll put them all in there. So yes, go check that out. You can also check me out on Facebook, Eventual Millionaire, and I'm on Instagram, Eventual Million, and Twitter too.
So everything's Eventual Millionaire. And by the way, her content's amazing too. The interviews she has are super dynamic. I've probably listened to 50 of them, maybe more. The last couple of years.
I think my mom listened to one. So thanks, Peter.
Wow, I'm ahead of your mom. Tell her to step up. But when I was coming up in the game back in the day, like 2011, 12, 13, 14, I was listening to him all the time. So I appreciate you for having a big impact on my career as well, and much more to come. So once again, thanks for being a world-class person first and an amazing businesswoman, changing the game and representing a lot of powerful females as well. So I appreciate you.
Oh, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. And thanks, everybody. You're amazing. Go do something hard.
They loved you, by the way. Everyone's loving it. So thanks again. And we'll let me know if I can help you in any way, and we'll talk soon.
Perfect. Take care. Right. Bye.
Wow. Amazing, guys. I know you guys are going crazy in the chat. Once again, I don't even need to say this, but don't even take 2 takeaways. Think about your one takeaway that'll make the biggest difference for your business, depending on what stage you're at right now. Right, that's such a huge key. I took a ton of notes. You guys have notes. I would rewatch this as well. And this might be the interview. And we've had some epic interviews in the past, but this might be the interview that you needed, that one nugget, that one piece of information, or it's something that you're going to download from the resource guide that's going to take your business to the next stratosphere of whatever that is for you. If you're at 100K, maybe it's 200. If you're at 250, maybe it's 5. I don't know. But I appreciate you guys for being part of the academy, and let's continue to operate with certainty and clarity. And don't forget to think and act like a game changer. Okay, continue to think and act like a game changer. And I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day. Go ahead and post on the Facebook group your biggest breakthroughs from this interview. I'm going to post the replay on the Facebook as well as in our in your portal. And have an amazing rest of your day, guys. We'll talk soon. See ya.